All right, welcome back. Last time we talked about the absolute survival skills of management, but today we move from just surviving to actually thriving. We're going to tackle two skills that honestly separate the good managers from the truly great ones, fixing what's broken and empowering your team to build what comes next.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll see exactly where these two new skills fit into your whole management foundation. Then, we're going to dive deep into problem solving, followed by the surprisingly strategic art of delegation. After that, we'll look at the two very different worlds these skills can create. And then, of course, we'll give you a little peek at what's coming up next on this journey.
Okay, so if you remember from our last explainer, we laid down the bedrock of management, planning and decision-making. You can think of those as the absolute non-negotiables. The skills you need just to keep your head above water when you're in a leadership role.
But hey, surviving isn't really the goal, is it? Thriving is. And that is exactly where today's skills come in. Problem solving and delegation are how you start moving from just managing the day-to-day to truly leading your team through the challenges that are going to define their success.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, just pause for a second and ask yourself this. Seriously, think about the team you're leading right now. How stable is it, really? How healthy does it feel? Because the skills we're about to unpack, well, they're the key to making that foundation rock solid.
All right, let's kick things off with the skill that is truly at the core of effective management, problem solving. This is where a manager really proves their value, day in and day out. And let's be clear, problem solving is so much more than just putting out fires. It's really about being a detective. It's about digging in and identifying the real source of an issue, whether it's in the work, someone's behavior, or the team's morale, and then putting a real solution in place that builds a stable, productive atmosphere.
So you might be thinking, look, can't some of the smaller issues just, work themselves out? And that is a super tempting thought. I get it. But it's also a trap that can lead to some pretty serious disasters down the road. The reason we have to jump on problems quickly is absolutely critical.
Because a tiny little crack can eventually bring down an entire wall. That small, recurring problem that seems like no big deal, it's slowly eroding your team's trust, their efficiency, and their morale, day by day. Ignoring it isn't an option. It's a gamble with your team's culture that you are eventually going to lose.
Now here's the good news. You don't have to guess. There are these proven methods to get right to the heart of any issue. Take the 5 whys technique. It's incredibly simple, but so powerful. You literally just keep asking why until you get past all the surface-level symptoms and find the actual root cause. These kinds of frameworks give you a structured way to stop just treating symptoms and finally cure the disease.
And when you consistently use these methods, something amazing happens. You start to transform your team's entire culture. You move away from constantly being in reaction mode, just doing damage control, and into this proactive state of continuous improvement. You're not just preventing weakness, you're actively building strength.
Okay, so you've solved a problem. How do you make sure it stays solved? And better yet, how do you empower your team to handle similar things in the future? Well, that brings us right to our next essential tool, and it's one that gets misunderstood all the time: delegation. And let's just be crystal clear, this is not about offloading your work, it's a core leadership strategy.
And it all begins with this fundamental responsibility. Think about it. You can't delegate effectively if people don't even know what their job is. Before you hand off a single thing, every single person on your team needs a totally clear understanding of their role. A well-defined job description is like the map they need to navigate their work and succeed.
Now, this is where delegation really shifts from just being an art to being a science. It is not just about giving tasks to whoever looks free. It's a calculated decision based on these 4 factors. For example, does this task actually align with their seniority and their pay grade? Asking someone to do work way below their level can be totally demotivating, but giving them work way above it can lead straight to burnout. Getting that balance right is everything.
And trust me, getting this calculation right or wrong is not a small thing. The way you delegate creates this ripple effect that directly shapes your team's entire environment. It really leads you down one of 2 very, very different paths. When you do it right, you hit that perfect sweet spot. The tasks you assign are challenging, sure, enough to be engaging and help them grow, but they stay within that person's capacity. And that's how you build confidence and competence, instead of anxiety and burnout.
And the end result is one of these 2 realities. There's really no in-between. When you delegate the right way, you get a stable, productive environment where people feel trusted and empowered. but get it wrong, and you create a world filled with division and dissatisfaction. You're not just assigning a task poorly, you are actively poisoning the well. Okay, so let's pull this all together. With problem solving and delegation, you're not just learning a couple of new tricks, you are systematically building out your essential management toolkit.
So just think about it for a second. You now have the 4 cornerstones of a really powerful management foundation: planning, decision-making, problem-solving, and delegation. Mastering these 4 is what's going to make you, your team, and your whole organization incredibly resilient.
But of course, a great foundation is just the beginning, right? It's meant to be built on. The learning journey for a manager, it never truly stops, and there are still more critical skills to add to your collection. And here's a little preview of what's coming in part 3. We're going to dive into how to master your time and your follow-up, how to build processes that actually work, and how to give feedback that builds people up instead of tearing them down. It's all in service of making your team more effective than ever before.
So as we finish up today, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Looking at these 2 skills, problem solving and delegation, which one will you focus on mastering first? What's the next tool you're going to consciously add to your toolkit to become the leader that your team truly deserves?